Hello, my name is Mia L, and I'm an incoming sophomore at Atlantic Community High School. I'm part of the International Baccalaureate Program, or IB. As one of the qualifications to pass and graduate with an IB diploma, I was tasked with completing the MYP personal project. The personal project is an assignment that allows one to further explore an area of interest while demonstrating skills such as the cycle of action and reflection. Although this project was typically assigned in the beginning of the school year, due to teacher and school complications I had, as well as personal complications, I suffered a late start. That said, let's commence on completing the project today. My personal project is about benefiting the community. For my project's topic, I decided to take one of my personal interests into consideration and modify it in a way to benefit a community. My passion happens to be collecting chapsticks. Even though chapsticks are a niche part of life, they give me happiness, and I figured I couldn't be the only one who enjoys and gets happiness out of chapsticks, so I decided to make homemade chapsticks with different flavors and then donate them to a women's and/or people in crisis shelter to give them happiness during their time in hardship. Here are the materials I will be using to complete my personal project. First is a measuring cup so I can measure the amount of product I will need to complete the chapsticks. Here is the beeswax, shea butter, as well as coconut oil and food/chapstick flavoring oil. Here are the containers I will use to make each one of the different flavors, as well as a turkey baster so I can separate the different types of flavors as well as put them into the chapstick containers. And here are the labels I will use to distinguish each flavor. And here is the pot I will be using to melt the chapstick base down so I can fill it into the containers. Here is the recipe I will be following to create my chapsticks. Unfortunately, the original recipe I found by the Elliott Homestead did not account for the total number of chapsticks I needed to make. They only accounted for 10, so I had to figure out the calculations in order to fill all 100 containers of the chapsticks. So here's the recipe. According to the recipe, the first step into melting the first ingredient, which would be our beeswax, is to do a double boiling method, which means you are going to put water into this pot and put it on a boil. And then in order to melt the beeswax and other materials, you will put this on top so the heat from the boiling water will melt the beeswax, coconut oil, and shea butter. The first step is going to be filling this up with water. So I will do that now. Now that the pot is around halfway full with water, it is time to test out if the double boiler method is effective. The way I can test this is by putting the bowl in to see if it touches the water. If it does, that means it will not work and that I will need to dump some of it out. But as you can see, no water is on the bowl, so that means I can put this on the stove and wait for it to boil. Now that I have the pot on the stove, I will turn the stove onto high heat and wait for it to boil. So I'll be doing that now. Now I will wait for the water to boil. Now that the water is at a slow boil, the first step is going to be melting 1 cup of our beeswax into the bowl. So I'm going to be pouring it in now. Open it up, and then I think it's able to put it in. I'm gonna hold this over the sink and I'll come back with 1 cup. Here is 1 cup of beeswax, and I will now pour it into the bowl. Now I will just have to stir continuously to prevent burning and sticking. Here is the beeswax freshly put into the bowl. As you can see, it is melting, so I'm going to stir it around so it doesn't stick together and just so it melts evenly and doesn't have any clumps. After this is melted, I will be able to put the coconut oil into the bowl. Now that the beeswax is all melted, I can add my second ingredient, which is going to be 1 cup of coconut oil. Now I'm going to scoop 1 cup of coconut oil into this measuring cup and add it into the bowl. I'm just gonna cut the video and show. Here is 1 cup of coconut oil, and I'll be adding it into the pot. Here is the coconut oil and the beeswax, and now I will stir this until melted, and then add the shea butter. Now for my final ingredient, I will be adding 1 cup of shea butter, which it came in that packaging, but I took it out. So I'll be cutting it, and I will place this into the measuring cup, which I have right here. I just washed my hands as well, and this seems to be about 1 cup of shea butter, so I will add it into the pot very carefully. And I will stir this until it melts, and then I will be separating the chapstick so I can add the flavoring. Now that the mixture of the ingredients is all completely melted, I can separate it into these 3 Tupperwares in order to make all 3 different flavors. Here I have divided all 100 chapsticks into 4 groups of 25. My first flavor I will be doing is the vanilla flavor, and I will use the turkey baster to put it in these containers. And I will first put 10 drops of the vanilla flavoring into the chapstick base. Okay, I just put 10 drops into this base. Now I'm going to mix it and put it into the 25 chapstick containers. Okay, press it. Okay, you can stop. Now that I have the first batch of 25 vanilla chapsticks, I'm going to start on my next flavor, which is going to be blueberry. And I'm going to put the caps on the chapsticks. Now I'm on my second batch of chapsticks. I have the base right here, the next set of 25, and the blueberry flavoring. So now I'm going to add 10 drops of the blueberry flavoring into this batch. Now I have finished filling all the blueberry tubes, and now we'll move on to the last flavored batch, which will be coconut. Now for my final flavor, I am doing coconut, and I'm going to add 10 drops of this coconut food flavoring into the batch. Now my last batch of just plain chapsticks are done. My next step is going to be to label all the chapsticks and then sort them into different plastic bags with the flavors labeled on them. Here are some of the labels we wrote. These are for the coconut as well as the vanilla. And then over here is the blueberry. Now all I have to do is finish the last of the labels. Finally, after my chapsticks were done for the last stage of my project, I went to the Canada Center to donate them. Unfortunately, due to people's faces being in the video and people saying personal information, I was not able to record inside. And there was also a very long line outside that was 2 hours long to get in. So I was able to leave the chapsticks outside of the Canada Center.